Your life as every rank in Napoleon's army, what it's like to be every level of the man who marched across the world. Hook. The cannon fires 30 meters to your left, and the ground shakes under your feet like the earth itself is afraid. You don't run. Not because you're brave. Because the man behind you has a sword and orders to use it on anyone who breaks formation. That's the rule. That's the system. You stand in a line with 200 other men, shoulder to shoulder, and you march toward the smoke while everything in your body screams at you to go the other direction. The man to your right steps forward. You step forward. The man to your left steps forward. That's it. That's the whole thing. You are a private in the Grande Armée. You don't understand the battle. You don't know the strategy. You know 30 meters of ground in front of you, and the order to advance and the consequences of not advancing. Somewhere behind all this smoke, Napoleon Bonaparte is watching through a telescope. He knows exactly what you are. You are a calculation. A unit of force to be applied at the correct angle, at the correct moment, in the correct volume.
You don't know that yet.
But you will. And by the time you understand it fully, by the time you've climbed through every rank this army contains and seen the system from every level, you won't be able to decide if what you built your life inside was the greatest military machine in human history or the most efficient engine for turning young men into numbers on a casualty report. Both things are true. That's what makes it the Grande Armée. Stay until level 8. Because the Marshal's baton, the thing every soldier in this army is supposedly carrying in his pack, costs something that nobody tells you about at level 1. And I need to know in the comments, if you were alive in 1800, would you have enlisted? Would the glory have been worth it? Drop it below. Let's go. Level 1, the Conscript. You are 17 years old, and the revolution took your choice. The levée en masse, the mass conscription of 1793, turned France into a nation at war and every able-bodied man in it into a potential soldier. By the time Napoleon takes power and reshapes the system into something more structured, the draft is institutionalized. Your number comes up. You report. The pay is 50 centimes a day. That's the official number. In practice, pay arrives irregularly, and when it does arrive, a portion has already been deducted for equipment you were issued and food you may or may not have actually received. You are carrying a Charleville musket that weighs 10 pounds, a pack that weighs 60 pounds, and a pair of boots that were not made for your feet and will not become comfortable through use. The first rule of the Grande Armée at level 1. You are not a person. You are a function. The system processes you, basic drill, musket loading, formation marching, and produces a unit capable of doing one specific thing, standing in a line and firing when ordered. That's the product. That's what you are at the bottom of this machine. The drill is brutal and repetitive. Loading a Charleville musket requires 12 separate steps. You will perform those 12 steps until you can complete them in 30 seconds, which is the reload speed required to maintain a unit's rate of fire in combat. You perform those 12 steps 10,000 times before you ever perform them under fire. Your sergeant is a man named Bonaparte. He has been in this army since before Napoleon, since the Revolutionary Wars, and he has the specific quality of someone who has survived long enough to become indistinguishable from the institution around him. He is not cruel. He is not kind. He is the system made human. When your form is wrong, he corrects it without emotion. When it's right, he moves on without acknowledgement. You are not here to be noticed. You are here to function. The first engagement is nothing like what you expected, and exactly what everyone who has survived one told you to expect. The noise is the first thing, not the bang of individual muskets, but the continuous layered roar of hundreds of weapons firing in sequence, the artillery underneath it all like a separate weather system, the screaming that you cannot locate a source for because it is coming from everywhere. You load. You fire. You load. You fire. You don't see who you hit. You don't see much of anything through the smoke. You just perform the 12 steps and wait for the order to advance or hold or retreat. You survive the first engagement. You don't feel lucky.
You feel empty.
Like the noise used up the part of you that was supposed to process what just happened, and that part hasn't come back online yet. It comes back. Mostly. That's the first shift. The part that comes back is slightly smaller than the part that was there before. Comment below, the 12 steps of musket loading in 30 seconds under cannon fire with men dying beside you. Could you maintain that discipline? Be honest. Because most people think they could, and the historical record suggests otherwise. Level 2, the veteran. You survive enough engagements to become something the Army values more than a conscript. A veteran. Not by title, there's no official rank of veteran, but by the specific currency that circulates at the ground level of the Grande Armée, which is credibility. The credibility of having been in the smoke and come out the other side. Newer soldiers look at you differently. Sergeants treat you differently. You get the better position in a billet. You get the slightly larger ration when rations are being distributed unequally, which they always are. The Grande Armée has a system of merit that Napoleon genuinely believes in, and that functions better than the hereditary systems it replaced. In theory, any soldier can rise to any rank based on demonstrated competence. Napoleon himself says every soldier carries a marshal's baton in his pack. This is one of the most powerful pieces of organizational mythology in military history, and it is also, at most levels, not exactly true in practice. But at level 2 it matters. Because what you've earned is the right to be seen as someone who might move up. You've learned things that aren't in any manual. You know which senior sergeants to stay visible around if you want a recommendation. You know which officers notice individual soldiers and which ones view their company as an interchangeable mass. You know how to make yourself useful in the specific ways that get remembered, carrying orders when the runner is down, maintaining your equipment visibly and well, never being the last man ready. The rule at level 2. In a system that rewards merit, visibility is the prerequisite for merit to be recognized. Competence that nobody sees doesn't advance you. You learn to be competent in the right direction. The campaigns accumulate. Italy, Egypt, Marengo, Austerlitz. Each campaign adds to the credibility, adds to the specific weathered quality that distinguishes a veteran from a new man. Austerlitz, December 2nd, 1805, the same day as the coronation anniversary, is the battle that makes you understand what you're inside. You watch Napoleon's trap close on the Austrian and Russian armies in real time. You watch two enemy corps march directly into the position he wanted them to occupy, drawn by a deliberately weakened French right flank. You are one piece of the mechanism. But for the first time, from where you're standing, you can see a fragment of the machine. It is extraordinary. You file that away. Level 3. The corporal. The promotion to corporal comes after 3 years, and comes in a specific way. Your sergeant recommends you to your lieutenant. Your lieutenant passes the recommendation up. Somewhere in the administrative structure, a decision is made. You receive new rank insignia, 2 diagonal stripes on your sleeve, and a pay increase to 60 centimes per day. You are now responsible for a squad of 8 men. 8 men. That's the whole empire at this level. 8 specific people whose names you know, whose habits you know, whose weaknesses and capabilities you know better than you know yourself. The rule at level 3. Leadership at the ground level is personal. You cannot lead 8 men through a battle by issuing orders. You lead them by being someone they will follow into the smoke, which requires them to believe, not think, believe that you know what you're doing and that their survival is connected to following you. Building that belief is the actual work of the rank. You learn that the 8 men are not interchangeable, which is different from how the system above you treats them. LaCroix is steady under fire, but falls apart at guard duty after dark. Petit is the opposite, a liability in a firefight but reliable during the tedium between battles that breaks men in a different way. Remy is young and needs to be watched constantly but has a quality of pure aggression in the forward moment that you learn to deploy deliberately. You are the interface between the system and the people. The system sees a squad. You see 8 men. Managing that gap is the entire job. The first time one of your 8 dies in front of you, it is different from the anonymous deaths of your first engagements. You know his name. You know he had a brother in Lyon. You know the specific way he loaded his musket, slightly slower than regulation but more reliable under pressure. You write his name in a small notebook you keep. Not for any official purpose. For yourself. By the end of your time as corporal, the notebook has 7 names in it. You stop counting at 7. Not because there aren't more. Because you understand at 7 that counting is a form of attachment that this system cannot afford to allow you. Level 4. The sergeant. At level 4 you are the real infrastructure of the Grande Armée. Napoleon's army functions because its sergeants are exceptional. The officers above them provide strategy and direction. The sergeants make the strategy real in the field, translate orders into actions, maintain discipline under conditions that dissolve discipline, keep units functional when the conditions are designed to make them non-functional. Your pay is 80 centimes per day. Your authority is significant and mostly invisible to anyone above the rank of lieutenant. Within your company, you are the primary governing force for the 30 to 40 men under your direct supervision. The rule at level 4: information is currency, and you are an information broker. You know things about your company that your officers don't.
You know who is about to break.
You know who is ready to be promoted. You know where the unofficial food supply is coming from and what arrangements have been made with local civilians that don't appear in any report. You manage this information carefully, sharing what needs to be shared upward, protecting what would cause problems if it traveled, using what gives you leverage. This is not corruption. This is operational management. You also learn at this level that the campaign system Napoleon uses has a specific structural cost that the tactical brilliance obscures. The Grande Armée lives off the land. It forages rather than maintaining the slow supply trains that limited previous armies. This is a genuine tactical innovation. It enables the speed that wins battles. It also means your men are taking what they need from civilians who didn't choose to have an army living among them. You manage this too. You don't call it what it is. You call it necessity. The men need to eat. The mission requires they be capable of fighting. What happens to the farm 3 kilometers back is not your calculation to make. You make it anyway. That's the 4th shift. The rationalization of necessity. Once you've made it once, the second time is faster. The 10th time you don't notice you're making it. Here's the question for comments. The Grande Armée sustained itself through foraging, taking from civilians in every country it crossed. Is that different from stealing? Does military necessity change the moral calculation? I genuinely want to know where you draw the line. Level 5. The Lieutenant. The officer corps is a different world. You cross into it through a combination of demonstrated capability, a sergeant's recommendation, a lieutenant's endorsement, and a formal examination that tests tactical theory rather than practical experience. The examination is the part that trips soldiers who have 5 years of campaigns but limited formal education. You prepare for 2 months. You pass. Your uniform changes. The relationship to your men changes. You no longer eat with them, billet with them, or operate in the same social space. There is a line, invisible, absolute, maintained by convention rather than any written rule, between officers and enlisted men, and crossing it in either direction is a violation that neither side will easily forgive. You miss the 8 men from your corporal's squad more than you expected. Not sentimentally.
Practically.
You knew exactly what you had with them. The new relationship, officer to company, operates at a distance that is efficient and accurate and impersonal in a way that costs something you can't fully name. The rule at level 5. At this level you start to see Napoleon's operational genius from close enough to understand it rather than just experience it. You receive orders that contain reasoning, not just commands. You attend briefings where the campaign plan is explained. You begin to understand that the speed of the Grande Armée is not accidental. It is deliberately designed, the result of a doctrine that concentrates force at decisive points faster than enemies can respond. You also begin to see the cost of that doctrine in a way you couldn't from below. The forced marches that achieve the decisive speed, 60 kilometers in 2 days, sometimes more, break bodies. Men fall out not from lack of will, but from physical failure. The pace that wins battles extracts a payment from the army that wins them. You write the march reports. You note the fallen out numbers. You submit the reports upward. Nobody changes the pace. Level 6, the colonel. You command a regiment now. 1,200 men. The number is theoretical. In practice, after a campaign, the number is lower. Replacements come in waves, which means your regiment is always a mixture of experienced men and men who have never been in smoke, and managing that mixture, ensuring the inexperienced are positioned where the experienced can carry them until they develop, is one of the primary tactical arts of the rank. You are part of Napoleon's direct structure now. Not close to him. There are layers between you, but inside the system where his decisions translate into reality. You receive orders that were shaped by his thinking, even if they passed through a marshal before reaching you. The rule at level 6. At this level, loyalty to Napoleon is not a sentiment. It is structural. Your position depends on the continuation of the empire. Your rank, your pay, your authority, the entire system that makes you colonel rather than a farmer's son from Burgundy. All of it exists because Napoleon's military and political project continues. This creates a specific form of loyalty that is independent of whether you believe in the man. You are invested in the outcome. The Russian campaign of 1812 is where this investment is tested. You march into Russia with your 1,200 men in June. By October, when the order comes to turn around, you have perhaps 800. The retreat kills more than the advance. Frostbite,
Dysentery.
Cossack raids on the flanks. Men fall out and do not get up. You bring perhaps 500 back to France. You write 700 names in nothing because there is no notebook large enough and the names have stopped being manageable as names. You rationalize it. The campaign was strategically necessary. Russia could not be allowed to withdraw from the continental system. The weather was exceptional, unexpected, beyond normal planning parameters. All of this is true. None of it brings back 700 men. Level 7, the general. You command a division. 10,000 men when full. Rarely full. The Grande Armée at this point in the empire, 1813, after Russia, after the losses, is running on replacements who are younger, less experienced, and less capable than the army that marched into Russia a year ago. You know this. Every general knows this. You discuss it in private. In the briefings with Napoleon, you do not discuss it. The rule at level 7. Information travels upward in this army with a specific filter. Bad news is accurate at your level. By the time it reaches Napoleon, it has been softened by everyone who transmitted it and who understood that bad news is not what the system above them wants to receive. You are now part of the softening mechanism, even if you don't intend to be. After Leipzig, the Battle of Nations, October 1813, the largest battle in European history, the Allied coalition has demonstrated that they can coordinate because they no longer believe coordinating is futile. The army that made coordinating seem futile is diminished. You know this. You saw Leipzig from inside it. You attend the War Council after Leipzig. You watch Napoleon's face as the situation is presented. You see the face of someone who knows and continues anyway, because continuing is the only mode this system has ever had. You say nothing that contradicts the plan. You ride back to your division. You prepare them for the next engagement. That is what the rank requires. Level 8. The Marshal. There are 26 marshals of the empire. You are one of them. The baton, the actual physical object, blue velvet and gold eagles, weighs almost nothing. It represents everything. It is the highest military rank in the most powerful army the modern world has produced, awarded by Napoleon personally to men he judged capable of independent command. You hold it. You are also, at this level, aware of the full weight of what you have been part of. The Grande Armée across its operational life, from the Italian campaigns of 1796 to Waterloo in 1815, will consume somewhere between 1 and 2 million French soldiers. Killed, wounded, captured, dead of disease and exposure. The number is not precise because the records are not complete, and the conditions of some deaths were not the kind that generate paperwork. You know the number the way you know your own heartbeat. Not consciously. Constantly. The rule at level 8 is the one nobody tells you at level 1. The marshal's baton in every soldier's pack was real. The system genuinely promoted based on merit. You are proof. You came from nothing, and you hold the highest rank an army has ever created. The cost is that you have been the instrument of the system that consumed the others.
Napoleon is gone now. Waterloo.
St. Helena. The empire is over. The Allied powers have restored the old monarchies and the old rules and the old certainties about who governs and why. You are a marshal without a war, a rank without a purpose. The system that made you has been dismantled, and what remains is the baton and the memory of what was required to earn it. You sit in a room in Paris that is comfortable and quiet and completely removed from everything that produced you. You think about Bonaparte, your first sergeant. You never learned what happened to him. The system didn't track people like Bonaparte when they stopped being useful to it. You think about the 8 names in the first notebook. You think about the 700 from Russia. The baton is on the desk. It weighs almost nothing. That is the final cost. Not the battles. Not the wounds. Not the campaigns that took everything from the men below you. The cost is sitting in the quiet room with the baton and the complete understanding of what the baton cost and being unable to put it down. The cycle continues. Somewhere in France tonight, a boy of 17 receives a notice. His number has come up. He reports tomorrow. He will be issued a Charleville musket that weighs 10 pounds and a pack that weighs 60 pounds and boots that don't fit. He will learn 12 steps in 30 seconds. He has heard the stories, the glory, the promotions, the marshals who came from nothing. He thinks about the marshal's baton. He doesn't think about Russia. He doesn't think about the notebook. He doesn't think about Boned or the 7 names or the 700. He thinks the story ends at the baton. It doesn't. But he'll find out. They always find out. And by the time they do, they're already past the point where knowing would have changed the morning they reported. That's what every rank costs. Every level. Every step of those 12. Now I need your answer. The marshal at level 8, sitting in the quiet room with the baton, do you think he regrets it? Or is regret even the right word for what he's feeling? Because I've been sitting with that question, and I keep arriving at the same place. It's not regret. It's something heavier than regret and lighter than guilt, and there's no name for it in any language I know. Drop your answer in the comments. And if this one stayed with you, subscribe, because we have more armies to walk through, more systems, more levels, and none of them end where the recruits think they end.
See you in the next one.